Hello everyone, happy Tuesday. It's time for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. This is Lena Gerza. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada. And today I am so excited to share the beautiful Flowing Flowers stamp set from the January to June mini catalog with you. Now, this stamp set is one that was right at the top of my must-have list when I first saw the catalog. I am a huge fan of watercolor art and watercolor images, and this stamp set is exactly that. It also has beautiful, fun fonts and some awesome sentiments that are perfect for card makers. I'll show you what I mean in a few minutes. So this was one that I have had right from the get-go, and of course, like everything else, it gets pushed to the back of the pile as other things come up, as new releases come up, and as preparation for classes and retreats happen. So it takes some time sometimes for it to float back up to the top of the pile, but this week it finally did, and I am so glad it did. I just wish I had more time because I have so many ideas with this stamp set and so little time to try them. But we have a holiday weekend coming up this weekend, so I'm looking forward to a little bit more time to play. Now, I'm going to share 3 cards with you today. One is just a sort of a basic card. The other 2 are fun folds. And I'm going to show you kind of a cool way to ink your stamp to get color variation on with just one stamping. Okay, so are you ready? Let's see who's here. I'm going to pull up my video on my iPad here. Let's see who's watching. Oh, that was not an attractive opening image. All right, we've got Penny and Judy and Doris and Deb and Joyce. Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I hope you all are well. So we are going to get to some stamping. I'm going to show you the stamp set. It is a beautiful one. Hi, Linda. And this is one that's just a stamp set. So often I will feature a bundle or a suite of projects, but this is just a standalone stamp set. So it's pretty affordable, $34 in the Canadian catalog, and lots and lots of pretty possibilities. So let me flip the camera and we are going to get rolling here. Let's do the old flipperoo. There we go. Make sure we're relatively straight. We'll get the lamp out of the way. Make sure we've got good light. We got a little bit of the arm of our stand. There we go. That's better. It's still there. It's bugging me. There we go. Now we can see the whole work surface. All right. We are good to go. All right, so Flowing Flowers is this one. As I mentioned, beautiful sort of abstract watercolor imagery. It is like a distinctive stamp. Now, it's not officially called a distinctive stamp, but you get some beautiful shading and variation in the depth of color with just one inking of the stamp. So we have 3 floral images, and how fun are the fonts in these sentiments. Love this Happy Birthday font. Absolutely love this font. How many card makers need this sentiment? Sending a card instead of a text. I think we all need this sentiment. It's just a fantastic one, and honestly, this one right here is one of the reasons it's bumped right to the top of my list. It's one of those sentiments that I will keep forever because we all need to send more cards and fewer texts. So we're going to get to it. Let me set the stamp set aside and bring in my first sample. So this one here, I posted yesterday just a really simple layout. This is kind of one of my go-to layouts. Anytime I'm designing with a new stamp set, I typically make a card using a layout similar to this, just to kind of get a feel for the stamp set. It's a really easy one to put together and to layer different DSP and different stamped images. So to start, oh, hi Louise, hi Jen. To start, we are going to bring in a piece of Calypso Coral cardstock. Now, this is a color that I do not use very often. There are some colors that I love them. They just kind of don't find their way into my hand very often. Hi, Debbie. I'm having a much better day. I actually slept for a solid 7 hours last night, which is the first time in probably a month that I've had a decent night's sleep. And it's amazing how much better you feel once you've had a good sleep. So yeah, I feel like $1 million today. All right, so I've got my Calypso Coral ink, and then I'm going to bring in my Poppy Parade ink pad. Now, this is a technique it almost looks, when I hold up this card, the background almost looks embossed. So what I did is I used the Calypso Coral cardstock and then a darker shade of ink to do tone-on-tone stamping. And it gives the impression of an embossed background, even though it's just stamped. Okay? So we are going to bring in our Poppy Parade. And I have this little floral, it's like got 3 little flowers on it and some spatters. I think that's the other thing I love about this stamp set is there's lots of spatters in it. Now my Poppy Parade is not the juiciest of ink pads. I'm hoping this is going to work for me. I may have to grab my reinker. We're going to see. So we're going to stamp, oh yeah, it's not too bad. We're going to stamp this little floral image several times on our Calypso Coral background. Hi Tamara, thanks for joining me. Glad you caught me live too. That's awesome. Yes, it certainly was a good sleep, Debbie. It was long overdue, let me tell you. I kind of woke up a little bit disoriented. You have a really deep sleep for the first time in a long time. It kind of leaves you feeling a little bit discombobulated, but it was a very good sleep. I was due. So I'm just adding some images. I don't really need to worry about the center because it's going to get covered, but I'm just going to add a few more of these little floral images. Okay, and that's all my background is. Now it looks not a whole lot right now. Once we add our layers, it's going to end up looking almost like an embossed background. I'm just going to add a little hint here and a little hint there. There we go. Okay, so there's our stamp background. Hey, Batty from Arizona. How are you? I bet it's a lot warmer there than it is here. Now, I don't know if I mentioned earlier, this piece is 4 by 5¼ inches. Okay. Then I have some of that fabulous Friendly Hello Designer Series paper from Sale-a-bration. This is one of the level 2 items. Love this paper. Love the colors and the patterns in it, and this works just perfectly. So this piece is 2 by 4 inches. Don't apologize, Betty. We can all just live vicariously through you. And then I have a piece of basic black cardstock that is 2 1/8 by 4 inches. So when I layer these, I'm going to get that narrow little border that I love so much. So we're just going to take and add a little bit of glue to the back of our DSP. And we're going to layer that. So we have just a little 1/16 of an inch border peeking out top and bottom. The sides are going to be flush. Okay. And then that is going to get layered onto our stamped cardstock panel about 1 inch up from the bottom edge, just like that. So again, we'll add a little bit of glue. And we'll pop this on. Just make sure that's straight. And then we'll use the lines on our grid paper to make sure this is straight. There we go. Okay, so there is our background. Super simple. Now we're going to layer this on a black mat. Before we do that, we're going to add a little bit of this fabulous gingham ribbon. I love this ribbon. This was in the Holiday Mini, but is still available. So it's one of the carryover items. So we're going to add a little bit of this to our card. Now we're going to put this across the DSP layer, but we're not going to put it in the middle. We're going to put a little bit towards the bottom. Add another glue dot. I was laughing this weekend. My husband discovered the wonders and joys of glue dots. He is working on installing some lighting for me. It's actually strip lighting, LED strip lighting in my newly reorganized studio, and he was having a hard time getting the lighting to stick. And I said, well, why don't you try glue dots? And so magically they worked like a charm. He's like, oh, these are great. So now I think I'm gonna have to order a few extra rolls of glue dots for my handy husband because he has discovered how fantastic they are. All right, so I've got my ribbon on. I'm going to go ahead and layer this piece now on a piece of basic black cardstock. It's 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 inches. So again, it's going to give me that same narrow border that I had on my DSP layer. So we'll add a little bit of adhesive. Sorry, I'm a little croaky today. I've been doing a lot of talking at school lately. My class of 34 beginning grade 9 instrumentalists requires an awful lot of talking and instruction and correction, I might add. So it's a lot of talking. So there is my card front. We are going to layer that onto a thick basic white card base. It's 4 1/4 by 11 inches, scored in the middle at 5 1/2. So we'll just fold that in half and crisp up our score line. Yeah, it is too many, Betty, I agree, especially for a group of beginners. It's hard to give them much individual attention when there are that many of them. You figure we have a 75-minute period and I have 34 students. So if you do the math, that's what, about 2 minutes per student? Yes, glue dots do rock, Tamara, and now my husband knows it too. So I better watch out. I'm going to have to hide them. They're too easy to find in my newly organized studio, so I'm going to have to find a better hiding place for them. All right, so there's our background done. Now we're going to stamp our focal image. So I have here a scalloped stitched rectangle. This is cut using the Stitch So Sweetly dies, which I'm very afraid are going to retire with this catalog. They've been around for a couple of years and I love them. I love the small scallop on these ones. We have the new scalloped, what's it called? Scallop contours, I think they're called. I've got it in front of me. Yeah, scallop contours that have a larger scallop on the rectangles, but I really like this cute little narrow scallop. So I think I may have to get used to the idea that they're going away, but I don't know that for sure, so don't quote me on it. All right, so to stamp this image, or this focal image, we are going to use this floral stamp. So as I mentioned, there's 3 floral stamps in the set. We've used the one on the background. This is sort of the medium-sized one. And we're going to ink our stamp using sponge daubers. So this is a great way to get variations of color in just one inking. So if you look at this, the flower here, for example, it's actually 2 shades of ink. We've got Calypso Coral and we've got some Poppy Parade going on. And then I used a dauber with Granny Apple Green to ink the spatters and the leaves. Okay, so, sorry, there's that voice thing again. I'm going to just ink up, first I'm going to ink up my floral image, just sort of the top of the flower using the ink pad. It's just quicker and more efficient. So I'm just going to ink that portion. Then I'm going to come in with my Poppy Parade and a dauber. And I'm going to ink sort of this bottom portion of the flower using the Poppy Parade dauber, just like that. Then I'm going to come in with the Granny Apple Green and I'm going to ink my leaves and the spatters. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and stamp along the bottom of my scallop, and I don't want to get too much of the leaf, a little bit. I'm not going to get the whole thing. Isn't that pretty? Love it. All right, so we're going to do that again. So again, I'm going to start by inking the top portion of the flower with my ink pad. This is the Calypso Coral, just to expedite things a little bit. Then I'll bring in my Poppy Parade, and this is where you have to be really careful and keep track of which ink pad is where. Normally I would close these every time I used one, just so that I don't have little accidents, but you guys are going to end up sitting there watching me open and close ink pads for the whole video. So we're going to live on the wild side and leave the ink pads open and hope that we don't end up putting them, the dauber in the wrong color. Wouldn't be the first time, I'll just say it right now. All right, there we go. So we've inked our flower again. We're going to do the same thing. So I basically stamped and then flipped, rotated my rectangle, and I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, isn't that pretty? Oh, I love that image. So gorgeous. All right, now I will close my ink pads, just so we don't have accidents. Get them out of the way. It is a great way to color, and it's quite quick, Darlene. It doesn't require, you know, any special coloring tools aside from the daubers. But that is my stamped image. Now, I forgot to bring a black ink pad over here. I don't know what I was thinking. So there's my Memento black pad, and we are going to stamp our sentiment. Best sentiment ever for card makers, sending a card instead of a text across the center of our scallop rectangle here. So I'm just using my Memento black. Any black will do. You could even use basic gray. It will read quite dark, but I like the black with the black matting on this card. So I'm going to stamp this a little bit towards the right. I'm not going to stamp it right smack in the middle. Okay. And then I'm going to come back with my floral stamp again. And I'm going to take my Granny Apple Green ink pad. I'm just going to ink the leaves and the spatters a little bit. So just sort of this part here, because I want to add a few extra little spatters at the sides, just like that, because spatters are the best. All right, it is a great sentiment, Louise. I 100% agree with you. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and add that to the front of our card. We're going to pop it up with a couple of dimensionals. So we'll just throw a couple of these guys on there and get rid of our backings. And then we're going to pop that centered on our cards. We're not centering it on the DSP. The DSP is just going to kind of hang out back there, but I'm going to center this on the front of the card. Okay, and hopefully get it relatively straight. Okay, and then our last touch, second last touch I should say, is to just add a cute little gingham bow. So we'll just make our bunny ears and tie a cute little bow. This ribbon is so easy to use. I love it. So we'll just trim our tails. And we're going to add a glue dot to the knot of our bow. And then that is just going to go right where the ribbon kind of meets our focal image there at the side. Now the last little touch, because every card needs to sparkle, is to add a little bit of Wink of Stella. Now, there is a technique, and you're going to see me on another card that we're going to make today, where you can actually blend your ink with your Wink of Stella. I don't want to do that with this one. I'm just really quickly brushing a little bit of shimmer onto these cards. I don't want to really blend the ink. The Wink of Stella will run water-based ink, so we just want to be really quick with it and not spend a ton of time moving the ink around. Okay. All right. Oh, yes, thank you, Deb. It is the Flowing Flowers stamp set is what I'm featuring today. So there is card number 1. You like that one? Now I'll just quick show you on the inside of my sample, I just stamped another flower with lots of room to write a message. Okay, so that's number 1. Done and done. Let's clean up our mess here a little bit. Get rid of all of these. Do I need this one? I can't remember. Better leave that one out just in case. All right, moving on to our first fun fold. So this one is one that I actually designed for a card swap that I participated in January or December, I guess. And it's just a simple Z fold, really, really basic, but I chose it actually because I wanted to show you the difference in the scallop rectangle. So some people will tell me, oh, I don't need both the Stitch So Sweetly and the Scallop Contours dies because I have one or the other. But look at the difference between the scallops. So you see how large the scallops are? This is the Scallop Contours. This is the Stitch So Sweetly. So it is quite a big difference in the size of the scallops on the rectangles. So I just wanted to point that out. Okay, so this again, super simple Z fold. So let's get to it. Now I do need to clean my stamps here. And I forgot to bring my chamois over. There we go. Let's give these a scrub because we are going to use completely different colors and we don't want to cross-contaminate here. Okay, so we're going to bring our little bits out here. So to start, to create a Z fold, it's a really, really simple fun fold. So this is another good fun fold for people that are kind of just getting started, not really, really confident around card design. This is a good one to start with if you're just venturing into fun folds. So we start with our card base. This again is thick basic white cardstock. It's 4 1/4 by 11 inches. I've scored it in the middle at 5 1/2. Then you're going to add 1 extra score line at 2 3/4 inches. Okay, so when you put this into your trimmer, you've got a score line at 2 3/4 and 5 1/2. That's all there is to it. So we're going to fold our score line in the middle. So we're folding our card in half, just like we would any other card base. And then this 2 3/4 inch score line, we're going to fold back towards us. Okay, and that's going to give us our Z fold. See the Z? You can kind of get where the name comes from. All right, and that's all there is to it. It's really, really straightforward. Now, on this one, I've actually used some of the beautiful Heart and Home Designer Series paper. So this is, again, is from another suite in the mini. Pairs beautifully with this stamp set. This stamp set works with just so many different DSPs. So what I love about this Heart and Home DSP is that one side of every sheet has these awesome sort of whitewashed wood grain patterns. There's all sorts of different patterns, and they're so versatile. You can color them, you can ink them, sponge them, so many things. I'm going to be featuring this suite coming up in the next month or so, so stay tuned for that one. But for now, we are going to use this sort of diagonal wood grain pattern and this pretty fresh Freesia floral. Okay, so each of these is cut to 2.5 by 4 inches. Okay, and then I have soft succulent layers. This one is 2 5/8, I believe. Yep, 2 5/8 by 4 1/8. Okay, so we're going to layer them just like that. You sure can, Betty. That would be a good one to redeem your gift certificate for. Just saying. Yes, Anna, it is a beautiful set. As I was saying earlier, it is one that went right to the top of my list when I saw this catalog. I often focus on the product suites first, but this is one that just grabbed my attention, partly because I love the images, but also I love the sentiments and the font. So we're just going to layer our 2 DSP pieces onto our soft succulent pieces. Just like that. Okay, and then these, the whitewashed sort of diagonal wood grain is going to go on this sort of front part of the Z. This one is going to go on the back part of the Z. So what I like to do when I'm gluing these, I like to actually close my card so that I can make sure that I'm getting my edges lined up and it's nice and straight. Okay, so let's add a little bit of glue to this guy. Put him on first. I'm actually going to open this up. We'll just layer that there. And you're going to see, again, really narrow border, 1/16 of an inch. I like narrow borders on my cards. Don't always make them narrow, but most of the time. And then when I go to glue this guy on, I'm going to just make sure that I close this so that I can line up the top and bottom edges and make sure that they're just nice and straight. So let's add a little bit of glue to this. Yes, the fonts in this set are fantastic, Kelly. I love them. And I love the sentiments too. Every card maker needs the sentiment, sending a card instead of a text. I think many of us are guilty of just sending a text instead of a card. There are many times when a card is so much more appropriate. All right, so there is our background. Super, super simple. Okay. And then for our focal image, we're going to use the same technique to ink our stamp that we did for the last one. Did I not bring my daubers over? Oh my goodness, you guys. I am seriously disorganized today. Let me grab my daubers. All right, let's fish out the right colors. This is what happens when you are running on next to no sleep. All right, there's a fresh Freesia. And we need a Highland Heather. I've got my succulent. I just forgot the others. Okay, there we go. So to stamp our focal image, so we have our die cut stitched rectangle, stitched scallop rectangle from the Scallop Contours dies. And then I've cut just a plain piece of white cardstock that is going to layer just inside the stitching. Okay, so this one is cut. The measurements are a little oddball on this one. This is cut to 2 5/8 by 3 7/8, and that's just that it'll fit inside the stitching. Okay, so we're going to stamp on that white rectangle, and I'm going to bring in that same floral stamp that we used on the last card, and we are going to start by inking just like we did on the last one. We're going to ink the flower using fresh Freesia, so we'll just ink that up. Okay, then I'm going to bring in my Highland Heather ink pad and a dauber. And we are going to just add a little bit of the Highland Heather to the bottom of our flower. The holders for my daubers actually came from scrapbook.com, Kelly. I've had them for years and years and years. I'm sure they probably still had them, but that's where they came from. All right, and then for the leaves this time we're going to use some soft succulent because, well, I love that green as well. So I'm going to bring in my dauber and add, oops, cat hair. Who has that problem with cats or dogs? We are almost to the shedding season. Phoebe has started. I was petting her this morning and ended up with, I looked like I had an Angora sweater because I had so much white cat hair on it. All right, so here we go. We're gonna stamp our flower in this bottom left corner. This time I want to get a little bit more of the leaves. Okay, so it's gonna go right about there. Look at how pretty that is. Oh, love it. And again, just like I did on the last one, I'm gonna add just a couple of extra spatters by inking just the spatter portion and adding that to the front of my piece, okay? And then I'm gonna come in with my Happy Birthday. Love the Happy Birthday font. And I'm going to use the same ink. I'm going to use the Soft Succulent to stamp my Happy Birthday. And it's just going to kind of go right across there. Can't tell if that's straight, but it'll do. That's what I love about scripty fonts, right? Handwriting sometimes is not straight, and it's okay. All right, and that's that. So simple. We're going to layer this now onto our rectangle. Before we do that, we're going to add a little bit of Soft Succulent open weave ribbon. So this is our in color ribbon. So pretty. Oh, I'm betting the first line everywhere with you. Long haired cats. Whoo-wee. Yep. Don't envy you that one, Kelly. It's bad enough with R2. All right. So I'm just going to add a little bit of our glue dot to each end of my ribbon here. We're just going to layer that onto our stamped rectangle. So we'll just go ahead and add that like that. Okay, and then I'm actually going to pop this up on my background here. So I'm going to add a couple of glue dots here. Hi Teresa, hi Wendy, how are you? Hope you are well. Thanks for stopping by. So we'll get rid of our backings here. And we're going to pop this on sort of between the stitching on this scalloped die cut rectangle, just like that. Okay, now this is going to get glued onto the front of our Z fold card. Now this is the really important step. So for those who are newer to card making, the tendency is to want to put glue all over the back of this and stick her down. Problem with that will be you won't be able to open your card. So we need to remember that when we put our glue on, we're only going to put it on this side. Okay, so I'm actually going to flip it over. Okay, and keep in mind that my glue is only going to go on that side. So I'm just going to kind of keep it where it's going to go, just to give me an idea of where I can put my glue. And then I'm just going to run some seal along that part. Okay, then this is going to get centered on the front of our card. Just like that, hopefully straight. And then my Z fold still opens. Okay, now the last touch, 2 touches, is to add a cute little bow. This ribbon is my favorite for tying bows. It just makes the cutest bows so easy to get a cute bow with this ribbon. Some ribbon you have to work a little harder to get your bow. You're going to see that on the next card. The ribbon is requires a little bit more effort, but worth it. But this stuff is super easy to get a cute little bow. So we're going to trim our tails once again. Get that out of the way. Grab a glue dot. Oh, thanks, Betty. I'm glad you like it. I love this set. It's just, and again, really craving spring colors, spring images. We just all need spring right now here in Southern Ontario. And then our last touch is to add some of our in-color gems. So I'm going to use the Soft Succulent ones. They come in all of the 2021 to 2023 in colors. So we're going to add a couple of these guys. I'll maybe put this guy here. And then a couple of these sort of scattered around. Whoopsie. That one didn't want to come off. There we go. Isn't that pretty? So simple. Now you could add another sentiment on the inside. I opted not to. You could also hide a little sentiment label here because you're not going to see it right when the card is closed. Lots of possibilities for this Z fold. Z fold cards are really fun because when they stand on your desk, they kind of pop out, right? And it just makes a little something something. All right, so there is our Z fold. All right, moving on. Now I went with almost the same color scheme because I'm just really crushing on Fresh Freesia and Highland Heather right now. And we're going to make this one. Now I posted this one today. This is the card that I created for our team blog hop this month. Our theme is Sale-a-bration. So the DSP that I used is more of that fabulous Friendly Hello DSP from the level 2 Sale-a-bration bundle. So this looks like a basic card. However, it is an easel card. I love easel cards because they stand up and they just look amazing on your table or on your desktop. And I just think it's just a great way to just take a basic card and really step it up without a whole lot of extra effort. So both of these fun folds today are super simple, great for relatively new stampers, don't require a whole lot of fancy cutting or fancy scoring, and they still have a real wow factor. So to start, we are going to bring in yet another thick basic weight card base. This one is cut to 5.5 by 8.5. So we basically cut our cardstock in half the opposite way, sort of horizontally rather than vertically. And then I've scored in the middle at 4 1/4. Okay, so here's my half sheet of cardstock, right? So I'll do it this way, 4 1/4. And then I'm doing another score line to split one of these panels in half. All right, so I've got one at 4 1/4, half of 4 1/4 is 2 1/8. Okay, so my measurements from this left edge scoring at 2 1/8 and 4 1/4. Okay, so I'm going to fold that first 4 1/4 score line, just fold it in half, just like I would a normal card base. Okay, and then this 2 1/8 score line, I'm going to fold under. So I'm going to make a mountain, and I'll show you what I mean by a mountain in a second. Okay, in card making, we talk a lot about mountain and valley folds. Okay, this is a mounted fold. You see the mountain? Okay, and that is going to form the foundation. Let me just put this up. That's going to form the foundation of our easel. Okay, I do too, Louise, and easy is great, right? An easy wow is something every card maker needs a couple of those in their back pocket. So hopefully this gives you some ideas. All right, so to decorate the front of our card, I have 2 pieces of that beautiful Friendly Hello DSP. They are cut to 1 7/8 by 5 1/4. And you're gonna see when I layer that, we're gonna have about 1/8 of an inch border on all sides. Okay, so a little bit wider border than on the other 2 cards, but that's okay. Gotta show you that I can do wider borders too. We're not only about the narrow ones. And we're going to go ahead and layer this centered on each of our 2 sort of segments on the front of our card. It does not look straight. Let's fix that. There we go. And we'll add this guy. And again, you just kind of want to pay attention when you're gluing this on, making sure that the edges here and here are lined up, okay? It really bothers me when I make a fun fold and these panels don't line up. It's just a pet peeve of mine. Maybe it doesn't bother you as much, but it really bothers me. Okay, so there is the basis of our easel card. Okay, super simple. All right, I'm going to set this aside and we're going to work on our focal image. So I have a whole lot of bits and pieces here. Now, some of these I've done ahead of time, just in the interest of time. So these 2 are the same flower, this medium flower that I inked using the same technique we did on the last card. So I inked it with the fresh Freesia and then added some Highland Heather with a dauber. And then I fussy cut out just the flower. So I cut off those beautiful spatters and the leaves. Okay, so we just have 2 flowers. You'll notice I wasn't super careful here because those sort of bottom edges are going to get covered anyway. So it's not a big deal. So that's those 2. We are going to stamp that beautiful large flower. So I have that large flower image. Look how gorgeous that is. Oh, it's such a beautiful stamp image. And I'm going to stamp it on fresh Freesia cardstock with Highland Heather ink. So this is that tone-on-tone stamping that we did on the first card. So we are going to ink this up, and I like to do, because it's a large stamp, I like to just kind of flip it over and take my ink pad to the stamp so I can see that it is fully inked. And then we're just going to stamp it on this scrap of fresh Freesia. I want to make sure I get a really nice crisp image here. Okay, and there we go. That's as crisp as this image gets, okay? It's a watercolor soft look. You're not going to get really stark lines, and that's by design, okay? Then I'm going to come in with my Wink of Stella. And remember on the first card when I said we don't want to actually move the ink around when we were adding the Wink of Stella? This time we are going to move the ink. So I'm just going to take my Wink of Stella and I'm going to blend some of this ink using the liquid in the Wink of Stella. So you can watercolor with your Wink of Stella. I'm not sure if you've ever tried that or you were aware, but you certainly can do that. I wouldn't do it a whole lot because you're going to use a lot of your Wink of Stella and then you're going to need a new one. But that's okay. Wink of Stella is not expensive, and it's worth every penny because you get beautiful shimmer and watercolor effects by using this as your brush when you're blending. So I'm just sort of brushing out and moving some of that color to blend it out a little bit and blur those lines that are already quite soft. But I just kind of want to blend it out a little bit more. Now this Wink is getting dry. Can you tell I've been doing a lot of watercoloring with it? It's not moving quite as well as I would like it to, but that's okay. You'll get the idea. Okay, so there is my beautiful, I'm not sure how well the shimmer shows up, but it is just so, so pretty. Now, if you wanted to, let me show you. You could actually add extra ink. So you can squish your ink pad to get a little bit of ink in the lid. And then you can pick up a little bit of extra ink with your Wink of Stella. And if you have areas that you would like to be a little bit darker, you can blend those out as well. Just add a little extra shading to your image. There's so many possibilities here. And because these images are watercolor and really sort of abstract, you don't have to be an artist to make them look good. Okay. All right. So there is our stamped and blended flower. Now we're going to fussy cut this out. Okay. Again, really easy to fussy cut because not super, super, detailed. Just kind of making some really gentle curves around our petals here. Hi, Martine. How are you? I hope you are well. It's nice to see you. So we're just going to kind of come around our petals. When you're fussy cutting, we're always trying to move the paper more than the our scissors. You definitely want to have a good sharp pair of scissors. Our paper snips are perfect. I didn't really start to develop a love for fussy cutting until I got myself a good pair of scissors, and that was our Stampin' Up paper trimmer or paper snips. They are just awesome. So we will just quickly cut this out. You can see why I fussy cut the other two ahead of time, right? Otherwise we'd be here till midnight. So we'll just kind of come around here and finish up cutting this guy out. There we go. Okay, isn't that a pretty flower? Oh, so gorgeous. All right, let's get this out of the way. And now we can arrange do a little floral arranging. So we're going to arrange our flowers and then adhere them to one of the Heart and Home doilies. So these come in a package with Basic Gray, Misty Moonlight, and Cinnamon Cider, but the back sides are all white. So you can use them all over the place, okay? They would work, Louise. You'd have to cut, actually no, you'd have to score at, I have to think about this because you guys do 4-inch wide. So you would have to score at 4 and 2 for that to work, for A4 cardstock. Yeah. Okay. So we are going to arrange our white flowers are going to kind of tuck in behind our purple flower and help to set that off. But before that, we are going to add some green sprigs. So these are punched from the same DSP, so the same Friendly Hello DSP, using the bow punch. That is like #1 must have from this mini. Grab it before it goes on back order, because it will, guaranteed. And we're just going to take and add some seal to the back of our flower, and we're just going to add some of these little sprigs. Just a little floral arranging, just like that, okay? And then we have these little guys, these sort of smaller little, almost buds. We'll add a couple of them, because we can. Okay, whoopsie, like I didn't want to stick. We need a little bit more glue there. We'll get him to stick, just like that. Okay, then we're gonna go ahead and add our white flowers in behind. So I'm gonna add a little bit more glue again. So we're gonna add one, just sort of peeking out there, and another on the other side. Right about there, okay? And then this is going to go on to our doily. Now before we do that, we're actually going to layer a little bit of this beautiful shimmer vellum to the back of our doily. I wanted to cover the fact that this was gray because you will see the back of the doily a little bit when it is standing on your desk, right? If you look at it from behind. So I wanted to cover that a little bit. You can see on this one I used one of the cinnamon cider ones. It just kind of dulls the fact that it's a colored backing. So this one it's just the largest scalloped circle from the layering circle dies. I actually cut this from a scrap because I don't need this bottom section. We're not going to see it. And I'm just going to layer it behind my doily. It's going to kind of peek through the hole and just add that subtle bit of shimmer behind my doily. Okay, so we're just going to put a little bit of glue on there and we're going to layer that so it just sort of peeks out like that. Okay, now our flowers are going to go on the base just like that. Okay, isn't that pretty? Like, it's just such a pretty little arrangement. And we're going to pop these guys up now that I've stuck it down. So we're going to add a couple of dimensionals to our little arrangement of flowers here. And we are going to stick those onto our doily. So I'm just going to turn this so that I see where this part we're going to hide when we stick it down. Okay, so there's my little arrangement. Really pretty, isn't it? All right, now that is going to get glued to our card base, so let's bring it back. We're going to glue this so that it is pretty much flush with the bottom of the DSP. So it's going to sit right about there. Okay, now again, we have that same issue that we had earlier when we go to glue this down. We don't want to put any glue up on the doily up here, right? Because if we do, we won't be able to fold our easel. So we're just going to put our glue sort of on this bottom portion. So we'll add a little bit of seal down here. I'm actually going to cut out a couple of dimensionals on these little flowers that are kind of sticking out the side. Because if you recall, they were popped, that layer was popped, but it's going to actually contact our card front. So we just want to make sure that's nice and secure. So we're just going to center that on the front of our card. Right about there. Okay, and you can see when I fold up my card, it still folds like an easel, so we're safe. Okay, all right, now I've got this adorable little label shape. This is cut using the Ornate Frames dies. Oh, I almost forgot the name. Ornate Frames. And I'm going to stamp my sentiment. I actually on my original used basic gray, but I don't have that over here, so we're going to use black. Totally works. So we're going to take our happy birthday sentiment and we're going to stamp it on this little label. Just like that. And then I'm going to bring back my little floral stamp again. And I'm going I'm going to just stamp a little bit of the flower. I'm not going to do the spatters this time because this was a different color of green that I used. Oh, that doesn't show all that well. All right, let's try something else. Let's use this guy instead. There we go. Just a little hint of the flower on our label. Okay, now this is going to tuck in behind, sort of between my sprigs and my blossom here. It's just going to kind of hang out. And I actually put it over so that this first sort of bubble or petal is kind of just underneath the happy birthday. So again, I'm going to add a couple of dimensionals to the back of my label here. So 1 and 2. And then we're just, oh, you know what I forgot? I forgot my ribbon. Darn it. My pretty, pretty ribbon. It's okay, we'll just add a bow. We'll skip the ribbon, we'll add a bow. All right, so there we go. So again, that's gonna pop up and our label's gonna go with it. Okay, so you'll see here, I forgot my ribbon layer. Can we do it? Maybe we can. Let's see. I keep preaching that I can fix just about anything, so let's see if I can fix it. All right, we're gonna add a glue dot, first of all, to start. And we're gonna slide this underneath this layer, if we can tuck it in. Where's my, take your pick. Are you guys ready? This is my little doctoring job here. See if we can add our ribbon. I'm gonna pry up my little flower there for a sec. Nope, stuck my ribbon to my roll here. And we're gonna tuck this in under here. Press it into place. We're gonna bring it around the back. And we're gonna trim off where we're gonna want it to end. And then we're going to add another glue dot. I think we might save this, you guys. Okay. And then again, we're going to just pry this up a little bit. Tuck it in. and stick it. Ha, look at that, I saved it. Dun, 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 dun. Told you, we could fix anything. All right, so there's our ribbon. Now we're going to tie a little bow. So this is the ribbon that I love, love, love. Ties beautiful bows, but you do have to work a little bit to get your ribbon out, or your bow out of this ribbon. Because the glitter in this ribbon, it kind of grabs a little bit when you try to adjust your loops. So you don't want to pull it super tight to start. So I just kind of formed my bow. I'm going to trim it off the roll. And then I'm going to tighten and adjust and tighten and adjust, and you just kind of have to work it until you get your loops the size you want and you have a nice tight knot. Okay, you do have to work a little bit because as you pull to adjust, it loosens your knot. Okay, and that's just because the glitter is kind of grabbing a little bit and loosening it. So you just kind of have to play. Thanks, Betty. Like I said, if there is a mistake to be made, I have made it, and I probably have a way to fix it. So yeah, there you go. There are many solutions, which is another reason I love my Take Your Pick. This paddle tool gets a lot of work drying up layers. All right, so there we go. We have a cute little bow. We're going to add that just to the corner there. Let's see if we can get that knot a little bit tighter. Oh, that's better. Adjust that just a little bit. Come on. There we go. That's better. That's exactly what I'm looking for. So now we're going to trim our tails just a little bit because they're a little on the long side still. And we'll add a glue dot. And we're going to pop that onto the front of our card, just like that. Okay, and then we're going to add some gems in a minute, but first I want to show you how to do the inside because we need to do our image and inside layer. So because this inside layer is going to be visible when the easel is standing up, I wanted to use the same DSP that I used on the front just for continuity. So this piece is cut to 5 1/4 by 4. We are going to stick it down on the inside of our card. Again, we're just going to kind of center that, hopefully get it straight. Okay, and again, you can kind of check it by sort of closing your easel, and you just kind of want those edges to be lined up. All right, so then I have another scalloped rectangle. This is the same Stitch So Sweetly rectangle that we used on the first card, and I'm going to bring back my flower stamp here, and we're going to stamp, actually, you know what, I'm going to use the large one just to save me cleaning it in the interest of time. So I'm going to ink my large flower with some fresh Freesia, and then I'm going to come in with my Highland Heather. And we're going to do a little bit of shading with the Highland Heather and a dauber on this one. Just going to switch it up a little bit. So we're going to stamp this one just in that bottom left corner of our rectangle. Isn't that pretty? Love it. All right, now, important note when we're making an easel card is that we have to have a layer on the inside that is going to catch our easel. So it has to be popped up. So this is going to be our catch for our easel. So we're going to add some dimensionals to the back of this. Just have to dig them out here. So we'll just throw some of these guys on and get rid of our backings. Whoopsie. And then we're going to center this on our inside panel. I'm not going to add a sentiment on the inside just because my panel is smaller, so I want to make sure I still have space to write. And that's it. There's my easel. So simple, right? Now to add a little bit of bling, we've got some more in color gems here. This time I'm going to use the fresh Freesia. So we'll just add a couple of these guys. Let's put one of these here. I love these gems. I use them all the time. Let's put another one over here. There we go. There's our bling. Okay, so there is really simple easel card. So another like wow, but fairly accessible fun fold for anyone who is going to who is newer. Okay, enjoy the sunshine, Betty. Thanks for popping in. All right, so there is our easel. Let me just bring back all of them. Here is our Z fold, and here is our simple standard card. There we go. Okay, so some ideas using that fun, I call it the ombre stamping technique, where we get the multicolored image with our sponge daubers, and some fun folds using the Flowing Flowers stamp set. Okay, all right, everybody, I'm glad you enjoyed these cards. Thanks so much for stopping in today, and I will see you again next week for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. Bye for now.